Good morning, everyone. All of you who've joined here, a warm welcome to all of you. I'm Shruti Alamali Arun, Director Principal at EuroSchool Whitefield. And on behalf of Team EuroSchool, I welcome you all to a very exciting workshop on how to discover your child's superpower with none other than legendary Jonty Rhodes. The world is changing rapidly, and in order to equip and enable our children to succeed in the future, they must be nurtured, mentored to develop a stronger understanding of themselves, their strengths, their weaknesses, their areas of interest and passion. And at EuroSchool, it has been our constant endeavor to provide children with an exceptional schooling experience with innovative learning methodologies that are more stimulating and relevant to the real world. Our network of over 15 EuroSchools has been awarded for our outstanding student achievements in academics and beyond, our 21st century curriculum, multifaceted infrastructure, and highly experienced and passionate teachers. So every initiative at EuroSchool is designed to empower our children to explore their passions, unlock their full potential, and succeed in the limitless tomorrow. Now, over the last 3 years, it has been a pleasure of mine to curate insightful workshops with cricketer coach and mentor Jonty Rhodes. And every time we come together, we have something interesting to share with our parents. And since our last workshop with Jonty last year, I'm glad to share that EuroSchool has launched 3 new schools in Mumbai and Hyderabad, and we are now a 15-school strong network in India. So a little bit about our three newly launched schools that will open doors to students in June 2023. We have 2 new campuses in Mumbai. That is EuroSchool Upper Thane in Lodha Upper Thane, and also EuroSchool Dombivli in Ranwal Gardens in Dombivli. We've also added another school in Hyderabad city, which is the EuroSchool Metro campus, and this is at Kukatpalli in Hyderabad. Each of these campuses comprise tech-enabled classrooms, state-of-the-art facilities in sports and performing arts, probably a 500-seater auditorium, a fully equipped child-friendly and safe kids play areas, AI labs, and other fully equipped science, math labs, and so on. I'm sure our parents are eagerly awaiting to know more about today's workshop. So without further delay, let's dive into today's interaction with the legendary Jonty Rhodes. Before we start that interaction, I'm sure Jonty doesn't really need an introduction, but it is my duty to, do that. Our guest today is widely considered as one of the best fielders to have ever played the game of cricket. He redefined the art of fielding with his incredible athleticism, agility, and technique on the field. He was known for his exceptional diving catches, lightning fast reflexes, and his ability to make direct hits from the boundary. He was a master of the run out, and his ability to save crucial runs for his team was unparalleled. His fielding abilities were a result of his natural talent combined with his intense training regimen, I'm sure, making him an integral part of the South African team. His impact on the game was immense, and he remains an inspiration to aspiring cricketers across the globe who look up to him as the gold standard of fielding. Post his retirement, he continues coaching aspiring cricketers and also enthralls fans across the world with his impressive commentary stints. I'm sure our audience have been audience to that. He holds India very close to his heart as he enjoys the rich diversity in food, culture, and tradition that we have to offer at India. He has been a part of the IPL, I'm sure all of us know, for years, coaching different franchises, and he now embarks on a new journey with the Lucknow Super Giants this year, and we wish him the very best for that. Hindustan Times once quoted that Jonty would like to be a Superman, and today we're delighted to have him as our superhero. Let's all welcome our guest of honor, Jonty Rhodes, for another insightful conversation on today's very interesting topic, which is to inspire children to discover their superpowers. So without further ado, we dive into the conversation. Thank you for doing this for us again, Jonty. It's the privilege is mine that I'm getting to do this for the 3rd time. And like I've told you in the past, I've been a fan of yours, and this is an absolute honor for me. So do we go ahead with our first question for you?
Yes, please, Shruti. Good morning. How are you doing?
All good,
Namaste to everyone.
Namaste to you. I'm sure the audience says the same. So with that, we'll go ahead with our first question. I'm sure they're all eagerly waiting for that. Like this is all about nurturing a superpower in our students. I'm sure this will inspire adults too. So my first question is this: that during a time when cricketers were, only commended for their batting or bowling, you really made them jump out of their seats with your fielding. You redefined fielding with your style, your diving, your energy, and in most of your pictures, you're mid-air, like a superhero, right? You're flying, you're mid-air. So did you ever imagine you would be known as the greatest fielder of all time and fielding would be your superpower?
Shruti, again, so namaste to you and to everybody, all the parents and all the students. And firstly, I am in Sweden. I'd love to swing the camera around because it has been snowing so incredibly for the last 2 days. And just a word of warning for all the parents, and I know you'll sympathize with me and understand because we are in a small apartment. We are on a short break, a holiday here in Sweden, and we are snowboarding. Now, we're not skiing as a family. So we have Nathan and India, who are 5 and 7 next door. And Melanie and I have discovered, my wife and I have discovered that India and Nathan, they too have their own superpower. They are snowboarders and they are flying down the mountain. So it really isn't too early to discover your children's superpowers. And I must say, trying to chase them through the snow on our snowboards, I've discovered that I can still fly at my age of 53, but it's the landing that's the problem. So the superpower of flying is still there, but when I fall off my snowboard, it's the landing. Fortunately, it has been snowing quite a bit. So so when I kind of think back to when I first started playing my cricket and this superpower of mine, fielding wasn't given any importance, and it certainly wasn't considered a superpower. People weren't even thinking about it at all. But I always really considered it to be an essential part of my game because, I was just a batter, I wasn't a bowler, and I wanted to contribute in other ways. And I think that was important because, I needed to show that I could, if there was now a choice between two possible batters in the team who didn't bowl and weren't all rounders, and if the selectors were thinking, well, do we choose Jonty or do we choose the other player? I wanted to make myself, almost impossible for the selectors to leave me out. So I think that was important for me, was that, as children in South Africa, I mean, now in Sweden, as I said, our children are flying down the mountain and they are falling, they are bouncing around. And I think from that point of view, it's the love for the game. And I really love to field. I love to dive because whatever sport that I played, whether it was football or whether it was, definitely not tennis, but it was hockey as well, I was still diving for the ball. So that superpower, that fielding, that love for fielding has always been something that's been with me growing up. And then as a cricketer, it certainly became sort of my differentiator because this uniqueness about me, it made selectors open their eyes and think, well, I tell you what, Jonty, his batting might be similar to the other player, but his fielding is something that we need in the team or can make a difference in the team. So it's been a real privilege to be able to, inspire others. And I think about how the way that fielding has changed globally. And it wasn't in 1990, just in 1992. I mean, that's when I burst onto the scene because it still took a long time for many teams. It took the IPL, the T20 World Cup in 2007 that India won under MS Dhoni for the first time, the inaugural T20 World Cup, for people to start saying, hey, fielding is actually a prerequisite. And we need to have fielders with not quite superpowers, but certainly superior fielding. So I think, I really never thought that fielding would be my superpower, but I'm very grateful that it turned out that way.
Great. And great to hear about your little ones and their superpower. We wish them well. Right. So do you believe every child has a superpower? Right. And these superpowers can be very many. And if so, how do they go about discovering that superpower?
Well, as I just said, I mean, my two are flying down the mountain. So you almost got to let them, discover it themselves almost. So because every child does have a superpower, I believe that. But it's up to us as coaches and teachers and parents to help them discover that and nurture them. Because, Nathan and India, not just the fact that their gender are different, but they are unique in their sets of skills and their talents. And sometimes you can't always discover them from an early age. I mean, I wasn't a fielder from birth. I wasn't the first 5 years of my life diving to catch balls, but I was certainly encouraged by my parents to go and explore the different areas of sport-wise and things that I love to do. So that, it doesn't have to be chasing a ball. For these two, India loves her drawing. She loves her art as well. She loves her music and her dance. So it can be anything. And I think, from sports to art, and the key there is to provide them with opportunities to try different things and find something that resonates with them. Because it's not about, our children following in my footsteps. We need to give the children the space and the freedom to be themselves so that they can tap into their creativity, their imagination, and their unique abilities. Because let's face it, I think as adults, we can empower them by being supportive, by providing guidance, and creating an environment that is nurturing for children so that they can discover their own superpower and thrive because I think when you find it yourself and you're not being told, hey, this is your superpower, when you discover it yourself, you really grow and thrive in that sort of environment.
Sure. Can you also share one or two examples of other players in probably other fields or even cricket on how, an enabling environment probably contributed to them discovering their superpower?
Well, the interesting thing, I mean, if I just think of my very limited time with Punjab for 3 years, we had some really entertaining and creative cricketers amongst that squad. And if you sit and listen to all of them, so many of them, they just focus on their cricket, which is fine. I mean, if they've identified that this is their ability that they have, and then that they work really hard. Many of them, with their parents, were supportive. It's their coaches. But Sarfaraz Khan for me was, Sarfaraz is little Safu. He's been an incredible batter with incredible talent. He plays these ridiculous ramp shots and reverse sweeps, and he is such an enthusiastic and bubbly cricketer. And I don't think people give him enough recognition, because for Mumbai, Maharashtra, I mean, he's been in superb form in first-class cricket, scoring hundreds after hundreds after hundreds. But in the limited overs and in T20 cricket, he is certainly a cheeky player. Everyone describes him as a cheeky player, but I've seen videos of him, and he speaks so highly of his father. His father literally sits in a chair in the net set because he's there all day, and there's a small net in front of him, and he's got a batting net and a batting cage that he and his brother work on all day. So I think when you've discovered your superpower, because Safu is definitely a very cheeky batter who can still play good cricket shots and convert that into first-class cricket. But his father has spent hours and hours not forcing him, because this is Safu's passion. This is his love. Batting and being this skillful is something that he believes is a superpower, because he's a really difficult guy to bowl to. So, Sarfaraz Khan for me is somebody who has really been unique in all that he's done. And it's because of the support of his father, spending hours in the net with him, that he's been able to take his cricket and his superpower to the next level.
Right. I also think that superpowers need not necessarily be in a field, right? It need not necessarily be in art or physics or sports. It could also be that you're a fantastic negotiator. It could be empathy. It could be any of those softer aspects as well, which I'm sure children pick up, while they go through all of the learning experiences as they go through school and life in general. To understand a little bit more, I'd like to ask who helped you discover your superpower? And how do you think a teacher or a parent can empower their child in discovering their superpowers?
Well, I think it's it's almost a team effort, and it's, again, you're 100% right, Shruti. I mean, it's not just about sport, but because sport has been such a part of my upbringing and
Right.
and what I do, we've almost had to, with Nathan and India now as younger children moving to Sweden, the team sports that I played as a youngster, they don't have cricket, and they have a little bit of tennis and obviously for football and ice hockey, but the way they do things is slightly different here. So I think from that point of view, that's why it is so important to allow your children to discover their own, support that, nurture that. Because my parents, I was just really fortunate in that I had this cricketing, not just cricketing, but sporting ability. And I was able to play all sports because my father and mother were both teachers. So they were both working full time. And fortunately for us, my father was actually the principal of the junior school that myself and two other brothers, so 3 Rhodes, in fact, 4 Rhodes boys were at the school with my father running it. And he was also, he was also a sports coach, but he coached the under 19 because he wanted to give us space we had abilities, and he didn't want there to be seen this sort of nepotism in the school and the Rhodes boys have been selected. So he just coached the junior teams as much as possible. And I think, he handed us over to the various coaches that took us through. So it's really important that the parents that we had allowed us and gave us the freedom to kind of take the knocks on our, as well. If we weren't being successful, they weren't on our case. They allowed the coaches and the teachers to do do what they're supposed to do. And I think as parents and as teachers, it's also our job to provide many opportunities and different kinds of exposure. Because as you said, it could be in any field. Because if a child doesn't try, they'll probably never discover what they're good at. I tried tennis, I played hockey and soccer as well as cricket. And even if you don't excel at any sport or activity, you may still be able to use the skills that you've tried in one area to be able to apply those skills for other purposes. Like my fielding, Shruti, was born out of tennis, having to return serve from either the backhand or the forehand, running around the hockey field with a hockey ball at the end of my stick, and even football, because I was not a goalkeeper, I was a goal scorer. But
Right.
the lessons that I learned from watching the goalkeepers try and keep the goal out of the net was from me as a striker, was something that when Sachin Tendulkar was batting, I tried to be a goalkeeper. And those lessons that I learned from those different sports made me the fielder that I was. So it is important, because you might not excel at something, but the skills and the abilities that you have, that you picked up from that one activity, can allow you and enhance your sort of superpower and allow you to discover it and give you a better base to work from.
Right. You're right. I mean, teachers have such a large power of influence on children, and this could happen any day, right? It could happen over the year. It could happen on a particular day where this teacher just spots something great in a child and just has a good word to say to that child about that particular strength or power, and probably that could be a life-changing experience for this particular child. As I say this, I remember I think of an example, which is our student at EuroSchool Whitefield. Actually, our former student. He is right now probably going into Columbia University to do his bachelor's in computer science. And he was from the batch of 2019. Before moving into university, he came and visited us and thanked us. And he spoke about a particular teacher called Vidya Mani, who happened to be his science teacher. The kind of not just the teaching, but the kind of confidence she put into him, made him really, I think, flower and do so much more. He did also come to our school, and he was part of this guest lecture where he spoke about his whole experience of his entrance exams and how he got into Columbia University and all of that, because it's probably one of the toughest universities to get into, and especially for the bachelor's in computer science. So he spoke about that, and his conversation was, I mean, he was like like the best of TED speakers in action. And he said that when he was in our school, he was pretty shy to start with, and the kind of confidence that Vidya particularly gave him during that journey is what changed that for him. So teachers can really do a lot, definitely, like you said. Now, coming to a school, as a large organization, what role can a school play in helping a child discover their superpowers? What do you think?
Well, Shruti, I think it's crucial. I mean, obviously, as parents, we have we have responsibilities, and we are role models for our children. But I was obviously fortunate that my father was at this principal of the same school, but there were 600 just boys, 600 other boys at that school. So it wasn't a case of my father looking after us throughout the day. We as parents, we have to hand our children over to schooling, so to schooling systems that then nurture them and grow them for the majority of the day. I mean, if you're working, if you're going to spend maybe, your children will spend 8 hours a day, possibly, or 9 hours a day in the school ecosystem. So the school plays such a crucial role in helping children discover their superpowers, because they need to provide a variety of extracurricular activities and opportunities for exploration, and allowing those kids to discover the sort of creativity and their individuality. Because sometimes as parents as well, you've got other siblings, you almost lump that. We've got 2 children here, you almost lump them through together. And now in a school where there's 600 boys, when I grew up, the teachers didn't have the time. We were the old school sort of system where 30 in a class and you all did this and you were all told to do that. And you weren't given that sort of freedom to express yourself and find your own individuality in the classroom. So fortunately for me, the field was an extension, the cricket field was an extension of that. So schools need to help children discover their interests and their passions, and teachers need to act as role models. Because sure, as I said, parents, it's important for us, but we hand our children over. So the teachers need to provide the guidance and the support to help children develop their unique abilities, because they are unique. So it's essential to create an environment where children feel safe to try new things, take risks, and just be themselves. So like I've said before, great coaches make great players, and likewise, great teachers can also make great students. And just as in sports like cricket, it's up to the coach to discover the strong points of every player and assist in the development of those areas, instead of attempting to coerce a player into focusing on an area that might not sort of be in their favor. Just because they're good at something doesn't mean that that's their true passion. So coaches do play a vital role in identifying a sports person's true potential. If a coach cannot identify a dormant skill or strength, they won't provide the appropriate guidance and the necessary opportunities to hone those skills. So it's a coach's duty to create an environment that's conducive for the players to discover, to flourish, and to reach the absolute peak of that potential.
Absolutely, agreed. I also think that it's imperative that a school offers a whole range of learning experiences, not a narrow choice of experiences, but as wide as possible. And I think we make that happen at EuroSchool. So we cover the visual and performing arts, we cover a whole range of sports. But in addition to that, even, sort of these newer age skills like, artificial intelligence, robotics, STEM, I think children love all of that as well. We also put in a lot of other programs like the Sparks program, which is designed to build aspirations in them, inspire them, motivate them. So we bring in a lot of people who come to our schools and talk to our children, people who are out there successful. They've gone through a journey of success and failure. They speak about their career, they speak about their life journey. So I think it's extremely important that so there's academic, and we go very much beyond that and give a wide range of experiences. So there's career counseling, there's a whole lot of things that we do. Also, I think the softer things like resilience, being confident, being good at presentation, being good speakers, all of that as well. I think that's extremely important, because any of these can be a superpower. And if you just give a narrow choice of experiences, they may not really have that experience to figure out what their strength is. So I think that's what we're trying our best to do at EuroSchools, and we hope that's really reaching out to our students. As part of that, we've launched the Aspire program recently, which brings in all of these that I just mentioned, visual and performing arts and all of these new age skills. And we've also tied up with globally renowned partners for these. So there's Barca for basketball, there's NBA for football, there's Helen O'Grady for drama, there's Torrens for music, and so on. And we think that their stellar curriculum with their very well-trained, equipped coaches can really make a difference to take our curriculum several notches higher and make that experience a lot more effective for our children. So that's the Aspire program that we have since a year. And we really hope that that's also moving the needle on this, philosophy that we have, that all our children must discover themselves. Moving on. So like I said, I just spoke about discovering yourself, right? So all our initiatives are driven by this one key philosophy, discovering yourself. And we've built a whole, schooling system that offers a range of all of these opportunities that I mentioned, the various initiatives, the various programs, and it helps them explore their interests and passions and all of this as they pursue academics. We equally, think that academics is important because it's a very competitive world out there, and grades and marks and all of that do matter. Of course, it also gives them those skills that they need when they get out there. Do you think such a schooling philosophy will help lead more children to discover their superpowers?
Shruti, I think it's a massive step in the right direction, because now, I'm sort of talking from experience, because the old style schooling that's still, in many of government schools around the world, doesn't matter what country you're in, is all about, teachers just saying things or giving children content. They write it down on a notebook or wherever it is, and they literally just regurgitate that. So, you need children to be able to discover for themselves, to be able to answer questions themselves. And that sort of philosophy, it's about attempting to achieve a balance. Because for me, sport without the healthy running around and getting outside in the fresh air throughout the day, and it's not just about playing sport, it's actually sometimes sitting outside quietly and just being able to look up and hopefully see sky and a bit of grass as much as possible, because that sort of balance it's so important. Because we as young adults, and say we as young adults, I'm still growing. I think of my father, he's a senior adult, that's for sure. But all of us, we're still finding areas that we haven't been very good at. Doesn't matter how old we get or how long we try it. So it's vital to be able to find some sort of balance, because children, should be able to be exposed to various activities at the same time as focusing on your academic. Because yes, academics, it is important, because for us to go further, we want to be able to go to university if we can, and a university of choice that we have. So, but when you have this balance, it allows kids or youngsters and students to identify where their interests and their strengths truly lie. So we can provide them with the structure for overall growth and development. It really is refreshing then to see EuroSchool offer such a balanced schooling ecosystem.
Right. I think it's also equally important that children are happy at school, and I'm proud to see that our children are happy at school, because I think that's half the battle won. And then, of course, they have these range of experiences that they build on, because that's when they really they're in a better position to receive all of these learning experiences, receive all of the rigor that we put forth to them. So I just thought I'll speak about a couple of students here again. So there's Saumya, who's a grade 11 student, and she happens to be, she played at the national level. She's been doing very well, winning across various national championships in Taekwondo. And now she's reached a stage where she is going to be soon representing India in any world championships that will happen, soon. And she is brilliantly managing both academics as well as, competing at such a high level, which is, that we're glad that we're able to make that happen. Of course, there's a lot of effort that comes in from her. I'm sure a lot of that from her parents. But I'm really glad and proud that we're able to also contribute in some manner to make that happen for her. There's another student that I'd like to talk about, who's Vijwal Sandeep, and I just felicitated him yesterday. He's a grade 4 student, and he's got this All India rank 1 in the International Cyber Olympiad. Very shy, very modest, but definitely some superpowers hidden within him. So these are some examples that I wanted to share that I'm really proud of. At EuroSchool, we're also really committed to providing children with something we like to call learning for a limitless tomorrow, right? And looking at your life, your journey. You've played a lot of rugby, you've played hockey, you've been an all-rounder when it comes to cricket, and you've also been a commentator, you've been an excellent fielding coach. So you are, to us, the personification of limitlessness, if that is a word. How do you think limitless learning can help a child discover his or her superpower?
Well, I think it's such an essential part of their own growth because, you know, when you go back to sort of my bio and you think, okay, so I've been involved with cricket all my life. I actually worked for a bank in South Africa. I have a Bachelor of Commerce degree. And when I retired from playing international cricket, there was no T20. So I went and joined the bank. I trained as an account executive in business banking. And then after a year, fortunately for me, because I'm definitely not a banker, and it's not knocking people. Oh, it's just not my superpower. And it's really tough being in a job what you're not passionate about. But fortunately, we also sponsored white ball cricket in South Africa, Standard Bank. And we actually, the bank, we launched with Cricket South Africa, we launched the T20 cricket, which we called Pro 20. So the IPL, the reason why South Africa hosted the T20 Cricket World Cup in 2007 was that from 2004, when I joined the bank, we then had the Pro 20 cricket. So you know, the limitless learning is such an important part because, you know, if I've been an all-rounder on the sports field, I've also had the opportunity to discover that my superpower is definitely not in the banking environment, but I've been there to discover that. So limitless learning, it really can help children discover their superpower by providing them with a diverse range of opportunities and experiences that allow them to explore their interests and passions. Because for somebody else, banking might be the way to go. I mean, it might be good with numbers, it might be great with people. But from my perspective, if you don't expose children to these different subjects and activities and challenges, you know, because they need to be able to discover their unique strengths and talents and develop the skills and knowledge that they need to pursue their goals. And it is unique. It is their goal. So this limitless learning encourages children to take risks, to make mistakes, because let's face it, every time I was on the field, people remember the great catches, but because they were spectacular and someone took a good photograph, you know, they forget about the drop catches. I made mistakes, but I was putting myself out there by diving for the ball, take a one-handed catch. You're putting yourself at risk for failure. But wow, when you took the catch, it certainly looked spectacular. So if you don't allow yourself to make those mistakes, you don't have coaches saying, okay, Jonty, you know, it's not even considered to be a drop catch because nobody else would have even dived for it. So making those mistakes and learning from those failures, it really can foster resilience, a creativity, and a self-confidence because it didn't drop a catch and my head would go down. Yeah, next time I want to take it. So because it was my team and my coaches saying, hey, Jonty, great effort, but next time you'll get it. So by cultivating this culture of curiosity and just continuous learning, children can unlock their full potential and discover their superpower, which will lead to a more fulfilling and successful life in whichever field or sphere that they are finding themselves in.
True. So children really need to be happy. They need to have that space to make mistakes, and they need to know it's okay to make mistakes. They need to know how to deal with failure. And make use of all the limitless opportunities that exist, and you know they'll start building on that and probably overcome all of these challenges, the failure, the mistakes, and find that superpower and nurture that till it actually becomes into a life-changing superpower. We've had a growing network of schools, right? We're trying. The organization is doing its best to give what we have across the span of the country. And there are new EuroSchools coming up very quickly, and we're very proud to see that happening. And it's coming up with fantastic amenities, facilities, various programs that we're always reviewing and coming up with new ideas. And the overall school infrastructure is great, not only in the new EuroSchools, but also all of the existing schools are being refurbished, they're being, a block is being added, or whatever is already there is being redone. So all of that is happening, and we really hope that our children get all of these limitless opportunities, and more children should get that as we go forward in the future. Now, to help children be limitless, right? The most challenging part, I think, is to eliminate self-doubt. Anyone really, a child, adult, to eliminate self-doubt, I think, is the most challenging part. So has Jonty Rhodes ever been scared, anxious, worried about failure? You've also been switching professions. You're trying something new when it comes to the game, or you've also been trying things that are new in life. How has this been for you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think the key is that I was really fortunate that in 1992, while I was still at university, I was literally thrown into the field and the field, as I mean, not just the cricket field, but the
Right.
field where I was passionate. So sport for me was something that I loved to do, but cricket and fielding was something that I was exceptional. I had the superpower. It was in me. No one had really seen it, and it had come through my schooling years. It wasn't a case of someone switched me on in 1992 and said, "Okay, Jonty, now release your superpower." I already had this passion for fielding. I already had the skill sets because it was something that I really, really enjoyed. But yes, by changing fields, by using my degree, which I wasn't comfortable in a banking environment, was something that I enjoyed the challenge, because every day I was learning something new around banking products, the policies and the procedures. But it also was a scenario where, it wasn't something that because I went to university or college to study a Bachelor of Commerce degree without knowing what I wanted to do with it. But most of my peers, my teammates at state level, they were all working. So similar to the old days before T20, many of the banks had a team, railways had a team, Air India had a team, and cricket players would work for the bank and play for their teams. So I was in a scenario where I stopped playing cricket and I had to change my field totally. And it wasn't a field that I felt that I would excel at. I didn't believe it was my superpower, even my passion, but it seemed like a good job at the time. So I think that's the key too, is that I was prepared to go into a field that I wasn't sure that this is where my superpower was. And that self-doubt about, hey, this is not for me. And having just the courage to go, okay, it's not for me. I'm going back to where my passion and my superpower is, even if it means I can't dive around the field anymore because it's that landing that I spoke about, but I can coach other people. I can coach youngsters coming through the system and just show them what is achievable. Not saying, hey, you have to be like Jonty Rhodes in the field, just inspiring them and sort of growing their self-confidence. So I think that's, is so important, because building that self-confidence and a growth mindset is key to overcoming self-doubt and unlocking one's limitless potential, both on, and in my case as well, off the field.
Right. I think it's interesting what you said about the growth mindset. Although we like our children to be happy, to be comfortable, to be, that they feel that, okay, this is my place of comfort. However, we are conscious that we must give them, challenging experiences as well, which make them come out of that comfort zone, which helps them grow, which helps them adopt that growth mindset. So that's, what you said is right. The growth mindset is something that's extremely important. What's your advice to students and children in a world of high competition? And in India particularly, there's super high competition, and there's also a lot of peer pressure. So coping with failure, bouncing back. What is your advice specifically about this aspect, and what is your advice to parents on this as well?
I think the key there, what is your advice to parents, is quite important. That last sort of reference to what should we as parents do. And I think for students, it really is important to understand that, your superpower might be latent. It was certainly something that, as I said before, I was a fielder, but I was also a sports person that played every other kind of sports without people going, okay, this kid has a superpower. I mean, I was playing state level in different sports. So I certainly had that ability, but without people thinking this kid is exceptional. Because, if it wasn't for the fact that Kepler Wessels, who captained South Africa in the 1992 World Cup, had been playing in Australia. He had emigrated to Australia, and he felt he needed faster, fitter fielders like Hansi Cronje and myself. So it was a case of going, this superpower could be latent in you. And yes, while it is tough, and especially with social media these days, it's quite difficult to accept the fact that if you're making mistakes and if you're failing, don't use that as a stumbling block to putting aside this latent superpower. Use it as a stepping stone to ensuring that if you're passionate and really believe that you have a innate ability or a love for something, it doesn't have to flick a switch. It can be something that requires you, whether you're 10, 12, 14 years old, that maybe only when you're 18 or 20, it will be seen as a superpower. So I think there, and the key there with the advice for the parents is that trust in the process, not the outcome. The process is important. And that's, again, without having blinkers on and saying, okay, this is what I'm good at. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it because Jonty says I must just keep doing it. Maybe sometimes there's a door shut saying, hold on, you're not supposed to be down this road. And maybe there's another route for you. So trust in the process. But by saying that, it's just being truthful with yourself. Because I really believe that, I was a really good fielder, but I couldn't just arrive at the game and say, okay, today I'm going to take the catches. Most of my injuries that occurred that I picked up on a cricket field happened in the practice, because the one piece of advice my father gave me at the school, and then he left me to the coaches, was that, Jonty, you have to practice like it's a match situation, because it's not about, people, teachers and coaches will tell you that practice makes perfect. It's not about practice making perfect, because you can spend 2 hours doing something at half intensity or half-heartedly, and you're not going to achieve much. My dad's advice was that it's perfect practice that makes perfect. So that's the key. Because I was passionate about my fielding, I could be perfect in my practice because I had that intensity, I had the love. And I think that is almost the litmus test of, is this your passion? Is this your true passion? Because if you can put the same intensity into practice, or sort of the work behind the scenes where no one is watching, then you're loving what you're doing. So I think it's important for parents to give their children the space to trust the process and not necessarily the outcome on day one.
Right. So some super inspiring advice there. So the key takeaways for me is trust the process. Do not worry about the results. Don't let your target affect the process, and just get the drill going. The daily chop wood, carry water has to go on, right? And I think that's one big area of improvement for our children nowadays. They're in their comfortable spaces, but when you have to repeatedly practice, probably some of them it doesn't come easily to them. So this is, I think, great advice, that it's extremely important to keep the drill going, to keep the practice going. And at some point, you'll get that success. But don't worry about that. Just keep doing putting in your effort. Great. Also, I think the world has changed in another way recently, in the fact that it's become very fast-paced and everything is short format, right? Everything is instant gratification, short format, results coming out quickly. So how do we go about honing one superpower in that kind of a scenario? Where, while on the other hand, there are people who still appreciate the classic 5-day test cricket match. And we just had one of the most thrilling test matches ever between England and New Zealand recently. And there's a much larger chunk of people that finds the modern, shorter format IPL T20 tournaments more exciting. So what are your thoughts on this?
Shruti, I think the key, and we touched on it, you and I both spoke about it right at the beginning of this webinar, is that our children are all unique. So, if I have a passion for test cricket, because I still love watching test cricket, but I work in T20 cricket, so it's a part of my passion. If I'm going to sit and watch, I must confess, I would prefer to watch 5-day test cricket, because it really is a test. But that's the key, though, and isn't that the beauty of this world? And I think what EuroSchool is doing so well is that it's providing these different platforms for all of us, the students and the parents, that really to discover their abilities, and that nurturing environment is crucial, because we are unique. And some people do love the T20, some love both. some of the cricket players can transform from the bashing of the ball in T20 and then take that into the longer format too quite successfully. Some of them keep bashing anyway. I mean, England are playing this baseball cricket that is very exciting, but not every team is doing that. So I think that, for me, is the essence of what EuroSchool is. And we've spoken about the growth already. That's just going to keep this growth is going to be exponential, where people start realizing that if you have this platform, because I mean, our children are India and Nathan arrived in Sweden at age 3 and age 5. 2 years later, they're both speaking Swedish, and Melanie and I are struggling. So at school, the school environment, it's such a essential phase of their existence. So if you provide these sort of extracurricular activities and opportunities in schools to find where they are passionate and their superpowers, it is so important that we are all unique. Let's celebrate that and accept the fact that the beauty of that is that you can't have 11 Jonty Rhodes in the field. It would be exciting in the field for sure, but we wouldn't be able to open the batting. We wouldn't be able to finish off the hitting at the end with 4s and 6s, and we certainly couldn't bowl. So what EuroSchool is providing, this platform, this nurturing environment that allows children to make mistakes, to find their passions and their superpowers, I love it.
Thank you, Jonty. Thank you for some of the feedback you keep giving us as EuroSchool. Should we also maybe include something specific as advice to all of the girls? There's this growing trend of girls in sports in India. Of course, it's been there for a while. What will be your advice to them?
Well, I think the key for me is that, we're now suddenly seeing, South Africa just hosted the Women's T20 World Cup, which we got to the final and got beaten by Australian women's cricket T20 cricket team, who are probably from a results point of view, the best team globally, men, women, any sport. I mean, their success rate has just been phenomenal. So they are, the Indian women's team played really, really well in the tournament. And from a point of view where, I think the key for me is that I've seen the successes. Women's IPL is coming up very, very soon. So, all of this points to the fact that, and living now in a country like Sweden, where gender equality is such an important part of the upbringing and the growth here. I mean, they try and include the boys and the girls in the sports for as long as possible. So there's no, this is where the boys go, this is what the boys are good at, and this is what the girls have to do. Everybody is given equal opportunity to express and their unique talents and find their superpowers. Because if you box it as, this is what boys and this is what girls can do, you are going to limit so many talented people, and especially young girls across India. So I think from that point of view, where there's been such positive change, and not just in sport, where, I think women and young girls, the future is just open to everybody. It is limitless. And I think that for me is the most exciting thing, is we've stopped boxing people. This is what boys do, this is what girls do. And EuroSchool is providing that again. And for me, from that point of view, I think the future for young girls in sport and anywhere, academically or in any jobs that they want, it really is limitless.
Right. We've had this legacy of our girls' basketball teams faring much better than the boys' basketball teams at our school. We're also proud to have a girls' football team, and we hope to build on a girls' cricket team as well. So we hope that happens soon. If you had to give one message to children of EuroSchool, right, one key message that they will take back home, what would that be?
Wow. Okay. I have so many things, as you can tell, I do talk a lot, but I think if there was one message to give the children, the students of EuroSchool, I think it would be this: just keep exploring and trying new things until you find what you are truly passionate about. So don't be afraid to take risks, make mistakes, as they all are part of the game. So remember that everyone has their own unique talents and strengths, and it's up to you, not your teachers, not your parents, it's up to you to discover yours. So whether it's through sports, arts, music, or academics, keep pushing yourself to be the best that you can be and never stop learning. But remember, it's not just about practice. I spoke about it earlier. It's perfect practice that makes perfect. Yeah. So with hard work and with dedication and a very positive attitude, because it is important. It's not just wishful thinking, but it is a positive attitude. You will be able to discover and unleash your superpower.
Right, absolutely. I think also for parents, I think it's important that they don't sort of start wishing for a particular kind of superpower in their child, that it has to be this and it has to be that. So as a parent, I've felt very strongly about that. And as a school principal, definitely even more strongly about that, where we do see parents sort of picking or wishing for certain, superpowers. Whereas we've seen that a child could be fantastic at a particular sport, but mediocre at studies, if I may use that word. But if you nurture that sports superpower, it will soon start rubbing off on academics as well, because they'll be confident, they'll be happy, they'll feel very content, like they've achieved something, and that sort of will start translating into academics if parents are looking for superpowers in the academic arena only. So that as a school principal of EuroSchool, I think that is something that I wanted to say as well. Does that sound right, Jonty?
It's essential, because I mean I'm a cricket player. I played so many different sports, and Nathan, and maybe I'm a little bit embarrassed about it, and it is because I do work away from home. Nathan is keen on all sorts of ball sports, because he's in Sweden. He's got an ice hockey stick. Now I can't even ice skate, so I can't get on the ice with him. But I'm also not forcing him, because I'm comfortable and I love cricket, to only pick up a cricket bat. I haven't even given him cricket lessons, and from that perspective, I'm a little bit embarrassed. But I'm also making sure that he's going to discover his superpower. And as parents, it's often a case of what we are passionate about and what we want to see in our children, what we believe is the right path for our children. I think the most important decision that you can make as a parent is getting them into the right ecosystem, like a EuroSchool, that allows the children themselves to discover what their path is, and the opportunity to hone and enhance those superpowers. So yes, I agree totally with you, Shruti.
Thank you, absolutely. We're sort of going to wind up very soon, so we'll just move into a few questions by the audience. We have a few people who've asked us some questions, so I'll be able to take a few only. Sandeep Shetty, he asks, he says that his daughter is 6 years old and is showing interest in basketball, and so he asks, how soon should he start professional training, and how does he go about it?
I think 6 years old it's amazing that basketball. I mean, basketball must be almost the size of his daughter. I mean, it's amazing that she's brave enough to get out there on the court and catch the ball and bounce the ball. EuroSchool is providing these sort of opportunities. You spoke about your women's basketball team, your girls' basketball team. That's great. I think as soon as you put a child into an academy or professional coaching, it almost limits them, because now they have to focus on their basketball. So there is no age. I think you must expose your children to as many opportunities for them to find their superpower as possible. So it's great that she's already keen and interested in her basketball. There is no age where you say, okay, but if you're not in an academy by age 12, you're never going to make it. The more opportunity you give to youngsters to find their own superpowers, the better. So there isn't a cutoff where if they're not being professionally coached by 10 or 12, they're never going to make it. Give them opportunity to try as much as possible. Mr. Shetty.
Right. So the next one is from Ashu Lalwani. So Ashu says, hello, Jonty, can you tell us what are the top 3 mantras to keep in mind for all sports persons? Top 3 mantras.
One is, don't believe everything that you read in the social media, that's for sure, or don't let it affect you. Right. I think that is something that's very different. My advice to the cricket players when I retired was about the newspapers, not about social media. And I just said, if you can't read the bad news, don't read the good news, because when you're successful, the first thing we would do, we would open the hotel door and you get the newspaper and go straight to the back page where they wrote this amazing stuff about how you batted. But if you can't read the bad news, then don't read the good news. That's from a sporting mantra. That's certainly important.
Yeah.
I think the second thing was what I try and instill, and what my father taught me was that it's perfect practice that makes perfect. So you can literally practice for 10 minutes, but practice like it's a match situation, and you can be successful. And I think the third thing is that you got to follow your passion. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, and you're only enjoying the successes, it's very, very difficult to be consistently successful. So, I think from that point of view, if you can't read the bad news, don't read the good news. Perfect practice makes perfect. And then the last thing is just make sure you love what you do, because it all takes hard work. Everybody, to be successful in any field, in any environment, it takes hard work. But if you're loving what you're doing, it never feels like work.
Wow, I think these three mantras will apply to anyone really, students, adults. It'll apply to sports people, students in their academics, their exams, everywhere. Us at work as well. Right. The last question, Jonty, if I may take one more.
Sure.
So this is from Meghna Naik. My nephew is 16 years old and is the captain of the school's hockey team. And he's very enterprising. However, at times he gets very stressed and pressured when he has to perform. So what would be your advice?
Well, it is. I mean, 16, let's face it, when a child is 16, there's so many hormonal changes that they're going through. So from a stress perspective, the stress sometimes, or most of the time, is coming from inside you yourself, because there's so many things that you don't understand. And now you add the captaincy of the team, your own performance. People are watching you because you are the captain. And I've seen many captains who have been great players in their side, but now when they've been picked to be captains, they've struggled to perform as consistently. And so it affects even the best people in the world. And as parents, I think that, and as coaches, that's where the support is so essential. And again, it's about understanding each stage that your child is in, and that uniqueness again of the ecosystem at EuroSchools is that you have opportunities for teachers to connect on a one-on-one basis with the children. But it's important though that we don't keep that within, because it's one thing having these opportunities and the facilities, but if you don't utilize them, so allow the child to express their fears, their concerns, and not keep it in. Well, once that's off your shoulders, it's incredible. I mean, I'm not very good at getting things done because, my wife is an architect. She's a yoga teacher. So she is structured. She's incredible with her organizational skills. I write something down and I forget it's actually on a piece of paper to go and look at it. But we all, so without that opportunity to say, hey, it's okay, this is what you're good at, we've got other people that will do things for you and assist you. So let's allow our children to be children firstly, but most importantly, let's teach people to talk about their fears, about their concerns, because once it's out and in the open, it's a lot less scary and it doesn't seem as big and all-encompassing. So allow your children to talk about their fears and their failures, and that as a support structure needs to happen at home and at the school. And again, as I've said, this what EuroSchool is providing in the ecosystem is just incredible.
I think the best way to make children, comfortable with talking about their fears and failures is to probably, as adults, as parents, to start doing that, right? Yourselves, right? This is something that I did wrong. This is something I could have done better. This is my fear. Maybe have those kind of conversations, which will make your child comfortable to do that himself or herself as well. Great. I do know you will have a very tight schedule ahead of you, and you probably have that all the time. And I also know that you're at holiday now, so I don't want to take you out of it for too much longer than I have already. This has been an absolutely stupendously inspiring session, Jonty. Our deepest gratitude from all of us at EuroSchool to you for doing this, and for doing this so often for all of us at EuroSchools, parents, students, and also the larger audience of students and parents all over India as well. We're sure this will make a difference to many young minds who've joined us today, definitely to parents as well. And we'll also probably see this at some point later on our Facebook page, whether they see it live or they see it later. I'm sure it'll make some difference to them. significant difference to them for sure. We hope this encourages parents to nurture their child's superpowers, and more significantly, we hope students will get well on their journey of identifying their superpowers and really building on them. And no matter what that superpower is, whether it's physics, it's a sport, it's just being that you're a fantastic negotiator, or that you have super empathy, or that you're extremely resilient. Any and every kind of superpower. We really hope that they get many of these, not just one or two, but many of these superpowers, and we hope that they really build on them. With that, we sign off from EuroSchools. We wish all of our audience a great weekend ahead. Thanks again, Jonty, for doing this for us. Have a great vacation ahead. Our best wishes to Nathan and India, from all of us at India, from all of us at EuroSchools.
Thank you very much, Shruti, and to everybody at EuroSchools. I can't wait. The IPL is now, we've been playing in a bubble for the last 2 years. We've got 10 teams in the IPL. We've got 5 away matches. So hopefully we'll be in places in Bengaluru, in Mumbai, and I can finally set foot on campus in EuroSchool. So because your network is growing, which is amazing. So I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully, not just you on a webinar, but actually in the physical presence. So to everybody, thank you very much. And just have fun. Your superpower will actually discover itself if you allow it.
So we'd love to have you here. I mean, that's a brilliant piece of news you've given us. If you can set foot on campus, I think that's the best thing that could ever happen to us. Thanks again. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Shruti. Thanks, everyone.